And so I guess the natural question comes, if this system is not the system, if the natural state of the free market is deflation, and yet we're stuck in this inflationary system, or are we stuck in this inflationary system, or what would be the alternative to continuing to participate in the world as we see it today?
Yeah, and this is where I spent a lot of time. You can imagine how much work I did inside the existing system to come up to the book and how these systems were different and what that looked like. I spent a lot of time. Was this was there any way the existing system could resolve itself from the existing system with all of our energy in that system dividing us from each other faster and faster? And the answer I came up with is no chance. A system problem can't resolve this. So then I investigated various different things that could or potentially could. And I looked at Bitcoin through that lens. I looked at gold through that lens. If gold could resolve this conflict, then it would have already resolved this conflict. But in 5,000 years, we keep going back to the same thing. We've never lived in the world I described. So I put is a higher bar on what I just said, that because I realized what humans would do, they would fall into this trap. And could a new system like Bitcoin resolve this paradox? What it would have to do is it would have to impose a new system that didn't want to change. It would have to impose a new system that it didn't want to change. And so when I looked at Bitcoin through that lens, I probably spent and I have spent about 15,000 hours trying to kill Bitcoin with the same rigor that I was talking about, kind of the system dilemma and this conflict that we're in. Let's go through that process, or some of the high points of that process. And maybe what we'll do is we'll go through that process from a lens of humans, right? Of us making decisions in the world, because the world doesn't just happen to us. We have a say, right? We have agency, but we don't know how much agency we have because we fall into these traps. And I'll use an example in the market for. I used to use a BlackBerry phone. Remember when BlackBerry was the be all end all and everything else? I loved the buttons, and I
That was
loved
my
being
first
able to
phone.
type on the buttons and everything else. And Apple was 3 years in development of this other phone that when it came out, I said, no way I'll ever use it. It's a toy compared to my buttons. And the minute it was put in my hand, never went back. Right? BlackBerry died. Apple changed. So we don't see how our changes, that what we once didn't know, that then know, change the world and impact other people. So what we do feeds forward. Our time actually counts a lot more than we think it counts. In Bitcoin, going back to that, you have a system that where money is debt. You have a different system where money is not debt. You have 21 million cap in Bitcoin, 21 million potential Bitcoin forever. And the way that that's constructed can't be cheated. It's not it's a system designed that I run a node that audits the entire Bitcoin blockchain every 10 minutes. And from running a node, I get to see, I'm a voice in that new system, and there's tens of thousands of those nodes distributed all over the world, that the rules can't change without going through me. And so we have a new fixed money supply where the rules can't change, and where the consensus of the network voting for the best interests of the network can't change it. You become a participant of the network if you want to run a node and learn it. There is no CEO of Bitcoin. There's no person who can gain more of Bitcoin. So if you just ask that question, if you had this new thing that had never existed before, it would be confusing because it had never existed before, and if it stayed decentralized and secure. So if no one could co-opt it and it stayed decentralized and secure, what would that new thing measure? And you could say if it stayed decentralized and secure, that's important, right? What would that new thing measure? because you couldn't increase the monetary units, you couldn't go past 21 million, that new thing would measure the natural state of the free market perfectly, because prices against that new thing over a long term would fall lower and lower and lower.
If you're enjoying this, this was actually taken out of a piece of our live stream where we go live every Tuesday and Thursday at 12 p.m. Eastern. If you want to see the full version of this episode, you can click the link in the description down below. But for now, back to the clip.
Okay, now let's introduce us as observers to this new thing, all of us. And so if you'd grown up in this other system of fiat money, and prices always went up, and you were really rich in that system, and you had most of the money, and this new thing ruined that because it just redistributed it, what would you say about this new thing? Right? You would be against it. You'd be very against it. But
Scam. Yeah, totally.
scam, everything. It's bad for the climate. It's this. Quantum's going to kill it. A million different things you would say because you couldn't allow it to work. Now ask, where do most people get their information? They get their information from that system. So they're part of this system. The experts are telling them to not look into this new system, and all of the money and all of the control is against this new system because it would redistribute it around the world. The vast majority of humanity would be too scared to look at Bitcoin because they would be stuck in the system, and they would always think there's somebody else, there's some boogeyman that this is going to break, and it's just a scam. Okay, so vast majority of 8 billion of us. A smaller subset of that would look at this system and say, it can't do what I want. Those early people on Bitcoin got rich, and I'm in the K-shaped economy and I can't get rich. So I'm going to get rich on Ethereum, Solana. I'm going to be the new, right? And they would see Bitcoin as a technology, and they would, and then there would be all of these scams, hundreds of thousands of new coins, all trying to get rich quick on a new system because they were really measuring in pieces of paper, not a structural change. They just wanted to have more pieces of paper, and they saw other people getting rich, and everybody would race. Tons of people would race into that. You'd have these blow ups and everything else. And for the first group of people, they would look at the second group of people going, "Oh my God, we were right all along." Right? Its whole space is a scam. Right? The Bitcoin, crypto, blockchain, and it would be more and more confusing to not look deeper because it would just be noise. There'd be Trump coin, there'd be Milena coin, there'd be all of these things. Everything would feel like a scam. And from the bulk of you could even argue that the scams might even be helped along by the control system to conflate what was really happening. You could argue that too. Then there would be another group of people who would see Bitcoin, who they would have gone a little bit deeper in Bitcoin, and they would say it's a store of value, and it's the best store of value that's ever existed because your money can't be stolen if you're part of the network and everything else. And it's a store of value. And from that group of people, they never would ask themselves, what is money? And why does money need a store of value? Because money's always needed a store of value underneath it, like gold, because money's always been manipulated. And then what happens because money's manipulated is a store of value gets centralized, and then it breaks. Then there'd be another group of people that would see it as a protocol. And a protocol is like the internet is winner take all. There's not a second protocol. Anybody can access the internet anywhere in the world with a VPN, and they can access the entire internet. And so it's an open distributed system that anybody can access. But protocols come in layers, and they add more functionality in layers, and they give more and more value in layers. So these four broad groups of people would all be observing the world, and it would be reflecting back exactly what they believed. I believe it's a protocol. I believe that it's emerging in layers. It's a new internet. It's the new internet bounded by energy that is adding more and more functionality. And why people can't see what's happening is because they're measuring it from outside of what's happening. They're in the noise, unable to see what's actually happening. And so when I travel to Africa, South America, and see circular economies, when I see what the beautiful things that are happening inside this and all of the abundance and all of the acceleration, like the internet before, but in service of all of us, there would only be a very few amount of people in relation to 8 billion people that would see it like I do. So it would feel like if you were outside of this, it would feel like the noise, everything was noise because it was everyone observing this new thing without pattern recognition of what it would look like from their various standpoints, and it would reflect back to them. So it would feel like noise. What it is to me is this change in the world that is imposing a new system in the world where all prices fall and we live in the first global free market that's ever existed. Now, against that, you have to say, if that's true, then every attack in the world is going to try to break it, and that's also true.
Hey, you made it to the end of the clip. That means you're probably enjoying this. And if so, just know that you can catch us live every Tuesday and Thursday at 12 p.m. Eastern. And if you want to see the full version of this episode, you can click the link in the description down below. Otherwise, YouTube thinks that you will enjoy this next.